Hello everybody, it's Aaron Sager, Mark Jorgo Jorgensen. How you doing, man?
Good, man. How you doing?
Good.
Nice.
What we're going to talk about today is sort of, Jorgo recently released a video with some footage of your time in the army, a bit of good information about PTSD and how to sort of understand what goes on in those sort of war-torn places. Mm-hmm. Mate, could you tell us a little bit about your experience in the army over in Afghan, what you did over there just really briefly, and then I'll sort of get into a few questions further.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. So I went over in 2011/2012 as a combat engineer.
Yeah.
So my role over there as a part of a team of 4 guys was to search for IEDs, so improvised explosive devices, whether that be buried in the road, on walking paths, in rock walls, anywhere where they think we're going to go past or come across, they will plant an IED to try and like maim or kill us or slow us down. So our role was to search for that sort of stuff and also to search for buried weapons, any sort of caches and stuff like that that they'll hide that they can get too easy. It was our job to find that stuff and deny them access to their own equipment.
Sure.
Yeah.
And so potentially a like life-threatening job, right? Like there's chances that these things could just like blow up in your face. There's chances that that you could potentially miss something and that sort of stuff. So a high-risk job, yeah?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, the role's called high-risk engineer searcher, so it's self-explanatory. Yeah.
Well, I guess that leads into my first question. Like, how do you, like, knowing that, you know, something could just like blow up in your face unexpectedly, how do you personally like conquer that fear or deal with that fear?
You go on.
Yeah, go on. No.
I think it's part of training. Before you can deploy as a searcher, you have to be certified to be good enough.
Yeah.
So it's basically a certification training, and you get sent down. We got sent down to Woomera in South Australia to basically go through very similar to what would be like doing the role in Afghanistan.
Sure.
So it's a similar type of environment there, where it's all very rocky and sandy, hills and that kind of thing. So we'd be put through most situations that we'd be put through overseas. So that kind of prepared us mentally for how we'd react to certain different scenarios. But obviously, you can only be prepared so much mentally in training. Then when you get over there and do it for real, you don't want it to be quite as a shock to the body.
Sure.
So at least that way, through the training, it takes away a bit of the stress.
You're somewhat prepared.
So you can adapt to it over time while you're over there. My camera's drooped. Let me just fix that up.
Oh, all good, man.
Sick.
Cool, man. So so you're very well prepared in your training, or as prepared as you can sort of get.
Basically, mentally prepared as much as you can be, I suppose.
Yeah.
You do watch some footage at the end of your certification of like what can happen when you don't do your drills right, and I suppose that you're like, okay, shit.
That's some
incentive. I don't want that to happen. Yeah. As well as you get kitted out with some good gear as well. So you're mentally, technologically, and through all your rigorous training, physically ready for a deployment over there.
You can't physically get any more ready than what you're sort of put through.
Not really.
Yeah.
No.
And sort of on that note, with the mental preparation, the thing that sort of, like, how do you control, like, and I'm sure some people wouldn't be able to do this to an extent, but how do you go through your, like was it like you'd go every day, you'd go out and be searching for these IEDs, right? Or most days,
Yeah, quite a lot of the days.
Yeah, and sort of during these stints, how do you go about overcoming that fear? Like, I'm sure there's something like this. I'm sort of putting myself, if I were in that position, there'd be this fear at the back of my head saying, you could blow up any second. Like, you could blow up any second. You could blow up any second. Like how do you overcome that, or does that not? Do you find a way to settle that or overcome that?
The first few patrols, I remember, we're doing our handover patrol. So at the time we had guys from Darwin who were finishing their deployment, and we were going over there. And you do a few partnership patrols together.
Cool.
So you go out and they will do all the searching and you just watch.
Yeah.
And then your next patrol, you'll do the searching and they'll watch and advise on different things and that kind of thing, because they know the area.
Yeah.
So they know what to look out for specifically. So you do that, and then after a few patrols of that sort of thing, then you'd go do it yourself.
Yeah.
And I suppose for the first few patrols when you're by yourself, you're doing these ones.
Yeah.
Heart's beating pretty quick. You're like, oh, you don't really think every step could be my last, but you're more cautious.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because you don't have that confidence yet, I suppose.
Yeah, yeah.
So you really are very careful with all your movements. It's very methodical. You go a lot slower at the start than you do as you progress, because you learn what to look for.
Yeah.
A lot of it's visual. You learn, okay, that bit of ground looks different than yesterday, or that road has a new hole in it compared to a week ago when I came down here last.
Yeah.
So you start to gather bits of information of the area, so it makes your job a lot quicker and easier.
For sure.
And at the start, definitely.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. I'm like, shit. But that experience matters. That experience
absolutely.
adds up. Cool.
Yep. So you're absolute boss of a searcher by the end of it.
Yeah. Cool. And you mentioned you came across a few cool, like or random little caches. Caches. One with human poos above it. I believe.
Yeah, actually, quite a lot of the things that we'd uncover, I think maybe they use it as a deterrent, but they would poo on top of it. Because who wants to go digging through poo to find something?
Not many people.
I didn't, but
but you have to.
The reward at the time seemed bigger than the issue of digging through someone's poos. But you do what you got to do, because you don't know what's buried under there till you find it.
Yeah.
It could potentially be something that's going to harm your mates or kill yourself.
Well, absolutely.
So it's better off to deal with a little bit of feces and uncover it.
Yeah, I like that.
My first
deal with a
find,
bit of shit to get through
get through the shit. Yeah.
Yeah. Get through the shit. Push through the shit.
Yeah. My first find was a mortar tube, so that was a big reward.
Yeah.
For having, I didn't actually have to touch the poo. I just dug around it.
Yeah.
And then pulled it out with a rope, so I didn't actually have to touch it and pull it out.
Yeah. Cool. And one thing I noticed was, I guess, in the videos that you put up, it shows a bit of an Afghan village, I guess or a little, I guess it is a village, and they're literally living in mud huts. Like, what is life over there for the average Afghan population? Like, it doesn't seem like, is it somewhat third world in some areas, or is that just how they build their houses, or?
I think it's just a case of what resources they have they're using the most of.
Sure.
They have a lot of dirt over there and rocks.
Yeah.
So a lot of the stuff they build is out of dirt and rocks.
Yeah.
So they make mud brick compounds most of the time. So it's actually, I've watched them do it. It's pretty ingenious how they do it. They mix different types of fibres like grasses and stuff like that, hay, with water and mud and stuff, and make actual bricks.
Yeah.
And they build it like that, and then they sort of render the walls with more mud.
Yeah.
It makes it really, really strong.
Man, they look solid.
They are, and at times, if you were to try and attack a compound made like that, there's not a lot you can punch through it.
Sure.
So you have to go in there.
Yeah.
You can't just shoot the crap
blow
out
a wall
of it.
out or something. Yeah.
It's not like bricks here. You can shoot through bricks of like that building over there with a normal rifle.
Yeah.
You could get your rounds through there after a couple of shots.
Yeah.
But with those bricks, it has to be a very high explosive something to punch through.
Yeah.
So most of the time we're going into buildings.
Yeah.
To search them.
Because you have to. Yeah.
Yeah. There's no other way unless you're in by helicopter. But
sure.
that's what the SAS are for. Not us.
Cool, man. And you did mention in the video as well, you did come into some contact with who are the sort of the Afghan army force or the police force that work with you. Mm-hmm. They went down a road that you sort of advised not to go down, and you guys went down the adjoining road, and they ran into IEDs. And you dealt with some stuff that the average person I would probably never see in my life, in regards to, limbs going missing and some gory stuff. And we'll touch on PTSD a bit later, but you talked about how do you go through that experience yourself, and then how do you personally deal with that experience after in your situation? It's a
well, at the time, it's the adrenaline that's kicking in. So you're not really thinking like, how's this going to affect me? Like, oh my God, that guy has no foot, or that guy's just a mush of blood and limbs and stuff.
Yeah.
You're not thinking that at the time. You're
Yeah.
thinking, I've got to do my job.
Yeah.
I've got to get this job done so we can continue on with the mission.
Yeah.
So I believe at the time, you're kind of fine with it, unless
Yeah.
it's that much of a shock to the system that you're a little bit sort of like out of it.
A bit woozy and
Yeah, but at the time, personally for me, it was just a big rushed blur of getting things done.
Yeah.
My job through that experience was to search over to that vehicle so we could then provide first aid to
Yeah.
the guys that were injured and bag up the guys that were dead and get them casevaced. Plus also it was to help the explosive ordnance disposal guys with evidence collection and taking photos and writing down things and sampling through the wreckage to try find parts of the IED,
Yeah.
so they could have some evidence to take back and find out where that IED came from, or if there's a bit of a reoccurring pattern
Yeah.
through the materials they're using, so they could find the guy who is supplying it or making it.
Yeah.
So we had a lot of jobs through that, to searching over there, collecting evidence, taking photos, walking, finding all the bits of blown up vehicle and
Yeah.
measuring how far away it was, to then also stretcher carrying the injured guys to the Black Hawk that picked them up for Casevac.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
it was pretty full on.
Yeah, and so
Um,
during it, it was just like the adrenaline's pumping, you're just getting your job done.
Yeah.
And then I imagine afterwards is sort of a bit of a reflection period, right?
Yeah, it probably wasn't until maybe the next day or a couple of days later that I thought about it, because even for the rest of that day, we searched up until sunset basically
Just
to get
because
back
of
to our patrol base.
Sure.
Because we wanted to get back for a fresh feed.
Yeah.
Didn't want to eat another ration pack. So,
Yeah.
so we wanted to get back, so we busted our asses to get back everyone back to safety.
Yeah.
So then we could rest and let our minds rest. And I believe it was the next day we had off that I thought about it a bit and wrote a letter to my sister, explaining briefly some of the experiences I went through, because
Yeah.
I think I needed to
Debrief,
mentally,
I guess.
I think I needed to process myself and just tell someone about it.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what I did to get over that bit.
Excellent.
Yeah.
And so that's pretty intense. I guess that's a good thing to know as well. Like if you do experience a situation like that, like it can help to process it, to sort of
Absolutely.
write it down,
If
or
dealing with anything like that could lead to PTSD, I believe it is very beneficial to talk to someone about it.
Yeah.
Even if it's just one of your mates that you're there with.
yeah,
If you're having something that's messing you up a bit, it's better to talk to them about you and get them to help than for you to have an incident where you're not doing your job properly a couple of weeks down the
Sure,
track, and you potentially are harming your mates' lives by internally dealing with your own demons
Yeah.
while you're supposed to be doing your job.
and that's something I didn't even consider as well. It's like it not only can it eat you up inside, but it affects your performance. It affects
Absolutely.
a lot of different things that
Yeah.
come from it. Yeah. Awesome. So, I guess going into PTSD as well, and you did talk about this in your video. It's something I got a lot out of that video, was bringing to attention PTSD and the severity of it, and how it impacts people differently, and certain people deal with these sort of traumas differently as well. And I know you touched on this in your video, but I'd like to talk about it just a little bit more again. Like, if you feel like a friend or someone close to you may be dealing with PTSD from, either their time overseas in deployment, or even a trauma that they may have dealt with, here in their hometown or wherever it might be, what should you look for one, and how can you, I don't like the word sort of force, but how can you gently sort of guide them to where to seek help?
Okay. I'm not a textbook of PTSD symptoms, but some of the things I have noticed is over-aggression,
Yeah.
or over-dramatic response to little situations. So even if something small happened, like maybe their partner
Yeah.
didn't do the washing in time or something like that, it could just trigger something where,
Aggression
like, because all the things you're dealing with over there, or something you've dealt with in the past, is such a big thing. It's such a big issue, and it's hard to relate that to such a small thing.
Yeah.
For me, the big thing from me was I found it hard to talk or to relate to ladies again.
Sure.
Being lady deficient
Yeah.
for
Lady deficient. I
lady
like that.
deficient technical term for 8 months.
Yeah.
Coming back and trying to get into a relationship.
It'd be strange.
I
wouldn't
was
it?
having a lot of trouble relating to their problems.
Yeah.
Because to me, it sounded like nonsense.
You've
It
been
was just-
dealing with like high, super high stress.
Yeah, it was petty nonsense
Yeah.
to me, but to them it was a big deal because that was their life.
Yeah.
So that was a hard thing for me, and I know some of my mates actually went through relationship breakdowns. They had kids and stuff and separated and all that kind of thing from probably similar events.
Yeah.
Maybe a bit too much drinking alcohol. Like if you notice one of your mates is drinking excessively after a big event, they might be trying to suppress the things that they're dealing with. A lot of the time it could be just them staring into space. I notice it with myself sometimes. I'll be sitting there and I'll just be like staring at nothing, and then I'll just snap out of it like, it's been half an hour.
Wow. Yeah.
What's happened?
Yeah.
So if you see someone just staring off into space, they could be just having a thought.
Yeah.
But it might be beneficial to go over and go, oh, hey, how you going?
Yeah.
Or like, even if you're a stranger, hey, my name's Mark. How's your day going?
Yeah.
I'll give them a bit of a compliment, like, oh, I like your shirt. Something like that's just going to go, oh, trigger those like nice feelings, the endorphins in them again.
Yeah.
So they start to feel good about themselves. And if they feel open enough to share, or maybe I'm having a rough day, I'm thinking about this time that this happened, it'll be good for you to like sort of work with them through it kind of
Sure.
thing.
Yeah.
So not ask direct questions like, oh, what happened? Just
Yeah.
like, oh, how are you feeling after this thing happened? Or,
Yeah.
oh, that sounds pretty traumatic. I don't know how I could deal with that. How are you dealing with it? That
Yeah.
kind of thing. And they might say, oh, I've just been drinking a lot more. And then
Yeah.
you could sort of work through it that way.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not a psychologist, but just some of the people I've chatted to with similar things, it's just try and relate a little bit, but not too much because they've dealt with something worse.
Yeah. And like what I've dealt with is nowhere near as severe. In like depending on like in your case, nowhere near as severe as what you've dealt with over there.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so you can't say I understand. You know.
Yeah. Even myself, I've got guys that dealt with worse stuff over there
Yeah.
than I did. Even like completely worse things that I don't even think I'd want to have dealt with.
Yeah.
But it's also useful for them having someone who's had a similar experience to chat to.
Relatable.
Because
yeah.
you can kind of relate to them.
Yeah.
So you'll find that a lot of defence personnel like to confide within each other because they've been on a close to similar sort of level of experience.
Yeah.
Whereas it's a bit harder for you to talk to someone who's had a completely different experience, hasn't been deployed, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's harder to open up to them because they're not going to have the response that you need.
Yeah.
From that.
And sort of as you mentioned before, you yourself haven't sort of experienced PTSD to an extent. Yeah, like maybe some minor symptoms, but not full blown PTSD.
Yeah.
Out of curiosity, like, do you feel like there's ways that you've processed what you've seen differently to others, or just at a different angle that's sort of helped you come through it, or do you think it's sort of just some people are more prone to it than others, or?
Yeah. So from my trip, it seemed to be the guys that were younger that were affected more.
Sure.
I don't know if that's something that's happened over the board of all the deployments, but some of my mates that were a lot younger came back, not messed up, but like a little bit more mentally hurt
Yeah.
than others. The first couple of years I did drink a bit, not excessively to that point, but I did a lot of partying because it's a distraction.
Sure.
But then I started to get into around better people. I got out of the army. I'm not saying if you're in the army and you're dealing with that, I'm not saying get out, but for me, I wanted to try new things.
Yeah.
So for me, trying new things and getting out of that constant going outfield, coming back, going outfield, and reliving that kind of experience, I got away from it. I tried different jobs and stuff that weren't fun, but they were a distraction.
Yeah.
I went over to Europe for 2 months with some mates, which was awesome.
Yeah,
that helped a lot.
Yeah.
Because you could just sort of dump all the emotions and just really experience something else.
Sure.
But then coming back from that, a little while after, I got more into business.
Sure.
And more into mindset development, personal development, positivity, that kind of thing. I know you can relate yourself with that. You're big into it.
Love it.
And that, I believe, helped me a lot to be confident and to a better person than I am today because I put a lot of attention into developing my mindset.
Cool.
And being around better people and not watching the news and basically removing myself from negative influences and being around more positivity.
Sure. I'm all for that, man. I love it. Cool, man. And lastly, I guess this is a good way to sort of finish up the video in a sense of after sort of being deployed and seeing, I guess, a war-torn country and then coming back to a place like Australia where we're quite separated from that, I guess. And as a, like me never being over or deployed or involved in the army that much, I've never really experienced that side of things. Like, do you feel like we could be a bit more grateful? Like, do you feel like gratitude or I definitely, after hearing your stories, think, shit, like, we got it fucking pretty good, man. Like, we got it pretty good over here. Like, what are your thoughts on, what were your feelings when you came back to this beautiful place here?
Okay, my first impression, as soon as I walked out the gates in the airport, I was scared shitless.
Oh, yeah.
There's all these cameras flashing, a lot of people around. The anxiety hit me extremely, like way more than over there.
Wow.
Just walking out, seeing all these faces staring at you, I felt very vulnerable.
Yeah.
I remember my family coming over and wanting a photo with me and hugs and that. I was like, I just want to get out of here.
Yeah.
It was one of the most anxious feelings I felt in that whole 8 months was
Getting
immediately
home.
walking out.
Wow.
And I know a lot of people can relate because you're around only close people that you've built a strong relationship with, and you come back and all these strangers are staring at you. It's so scary.
Yeah.
But from then on, what was your question again?
And then that was cool, man. Like coming back in, but then like sort of after settling.
Gratitude.
Yeah, gratitude.
Yes. Okay, yeah. Getting back, it was really nice and it felt good to be back home again.
Yeah.
Because our arriving home was delayed due to snow and bad weather and stuff over there. It was snowing and we literally broomed the whole airstrip, like a commercial-sized airstrip with squeegees and plyboard and stuff to try and get our flight earlier, but it didn't work. So we got home, we felt so good to be home. We just missed Australia Day, which actually affected me weirdly the next year, but felt grateful to be home around our family again. You can walk around here without body armour on, without having to protect yourself. It's a good feeling again. It just took a couple of days to get used to.
Sure, that relief, I guess, like not having to worry about, okay, today, like I might step on a bomb, or today I might, get shot,
Yeah.
It's like...
It was
that'd be an adjustment period, right?
Yeah, adjusting back into normality again.
Yeah.
And that's why we were given about 6 weeks of time off.
Yeah.
After our decompression, after our debriefs and that kind of thing. Given about 6 weeks to sort of go, look, here's your time, do your thing, and then come back and we'll be army again.
Yeah.
Which was really nice because then you could sort of dump all that stuff, get over all your demons somewhat.
Yeah.
And feel normal again.
Yeah.
But in relation to gratitude and how the country feels about its army, I can only speak from my experiences.
Yeah.
But I believe, I'm not saying we're an ungrateful country, but compared to America,
Sure.
they're obviously not a perfect country, but their respect for their army and their defence force is insane.
Yeah.
You can walk down a street as a soldier in America, and if you're wearing uniform, people come up to you, thank you for your service, thank you for what you do. It's just, they have a lot of gratitude for their armed services over there.
Yeah.
Restaurants they go into, they're like, please tell me if you're a serving member of the Defence Force and we'll give you a discount or something like that. Whereas here, I feel there's 2 days a year where people are overly grateful for your service, and that's Anzac Day and Remembrance Day.
Sure.
Because that's when people are actually thinking about it and thinking sacrifice, thinking we're lucky. But it seems to be after that, it's kind of forgotten.
Yeah.
We're just another army jerk.
Just doing your job.
There's a bad influence on our daughters and that kind of thing. Like,
Yeah.
So I'm not saying we're ungrateful, but I think sometimes it's forgotten.
It is.
And I'm not saying always give someone praise for being in defence, but appreciate that they've been through different experiences that are worthy of a little bit of merit and a bit of gratitude.
Absolutely.
And I believe, personally for me, someone thanking me for my service, especially on Anzac Day when those emotions are high, I feel very emotional when someone says thank you for your service.
Yeah.
it builds that pride within you again. It's like, what I did was worth it.
Yeah.
It wasn't just to get people ticks in the box and say we've done this. It's actually for a reason.
Yeah. Cool, man. No, thanks, Joggo. I appreciate your time, brother. Really insightful words today. I appreciate it, man. Cheers.
Absolutely. Thank you very much.
No worries, brother. See you later, guys.